Give it a second. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. I want to make sure this blue bar is loaded all the way, but we should be good to go. Okay, we are live on Facebook, everybody. So you can go check before we really get started, but it says we're live. So.
I see us.
Yay! Okay, I feel better. Yay, we're there. Okay, I feel so cool. Don't mind me. I suck. All right, so we'll get started at 6 o'clock. Miss Delandria's clock says 6.
My clock says 6.
All righty, let's get going.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first Lead with Your Art Real Talk panel. Today's conversation is going to be about the arts and mental health. Unfortunately, mental health in the arts is something that typically gets swept under the rug, but we are bringing it out today and giving it the spotlight it deserves. So without further ado, we are going to have each of our panelists give a quick introduction, and then we will get started. I'm Delandria, the event and logistics coordinator for Lead with Your Art, and I'm very excited to be moderating tonight's discussion. Now, let's hear from our panelists. First, we have Anaye.
Hi, everybody. I'm Anaye, aka Anaye Music, aka Creative Director for Lead with Your Art. And I'm very, very excited to be here today. I'm 17 years old, just graduated from high school, and I'm starting college this summer. And I think that mental health in the arts is such an important topic to discuss, and it needs to be talked about more. So thanks for having me today.
Thank you, Anaye. Next, we have Marshall.
Hi, family. I am Marshall Ware Mabry IV. I am an incoming freshman at the Boston Conservatory at Berkeley, majoring in musical theater. I am a singer, actor, writer, activist, all the things. And I'm excited to talk with you guys today.
Thanks, Marshall. Next, we have Alana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alana Bright. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm an incoming freshman at the University of Southern California, majoring with the BFA in musical theater. I'm a singer, dancer, actress, writer, artist, and I'm excited to be here tonight, you guys.
Thank you, Alana. Next, we have Charlemagne.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charlemagne, as she said. I'm a student at FIU, jazz-based performance. I'm a musician. I'm from the Bahamas. Been here a minute, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Charlemagne. Next, we have Kalia.
Hey, you guys, it's Kalia, also known as 35 Keys. I'm tuning in with these great musicians, artists, creators, to talk about a serious topic, which is health and the arts. I am 20 years old. I am a musician, keys and bass. I sing, songwrite, produce, and I'm also a model, and I'm so glad to be a part of this conversation.
Thank you, Kalia. And last but certainly not least, we have the founder of Lead with Your Arts, Delasia.
Hey everybody, so my name is Delasia. I am the founder and creator of Lead with Your Art. I'm super excited to have everyone here and want to thank everybody in advance for joining us today. We're so grateful for everybody watching and everybody supporting. And I sing, dance, act, musical theater, all that great stuff. I dabble in a little bit of everything. I don't think I have a strong suit, but hey, creative is creative. And yeah, I'm really bad at talking about myself, so I'm gonna go back on mute now. Or do we all come off mute since we're just going to start talking? Let's do that.
Check, check.
All right, let's get it going.
Okay, it's great to have everyone here. To get the discussion going, we will start off with something light and see where it takes us. So as far as answering the questions, I'm just going to go in the same order I went in. And then you guys can, chime in and, if it gets a little rowdy, whoop, whoop. We'll bring it back down to earth. All right. So our first question is, what's your favorite part about being an artist, and what do you do as an artist? Anaya, would you like to start us off?
Of course. My favorite part about being an artist is being able to connect with other people on a different level. So, what I do is I sing, write, perform, and produce. Had to, get that together in my head. But my favorite part about honestly, truly being an artist is performance because it's engagement and connection with other people, making people feel what I'm feeling at the moment, making people feel good about their current state or good about whatever's going on in their life, even though it may not be good. So that's my favorite part about being an artist, being able to connect and emote with other people using music specifically and performance as a channel to really connect, if that makes sense.
Next, we'll hear from Marshall.
Yeah, I would say the same. I think theater, it's a little different. For theater, you do have these people come and pay hundreds of dollars for these overpriced tickets, and they come and they sit and they expect to be entertained. But I think where I am as a writer and as an artist, I'm interested in creating material that you kind of sit for a little bit when you see a show and you sit with it and you're like, okay, cool. And then you eventually get to the point where you become vulnerable. Once you get to that vulnerable space, I'm interested in creating theater that changes perspectives. That's what we have the opportunity to do as artists. We have the opportunity to change the way people walk through this world, change the way people look at things, to change the way people interact with different groups of people or different types of music or different types of culture. And I think I'm interested in that, but also creating stuff that isn't centered around Black trauma specifically. If you look at the scape of musical theater and really just theater in general, there aren't too many shows that celebrate Blackness for Blackness without there being some sort of death or without the protagonist not being enough at the end of the story. So I'm interested in creating things that change that narrative and the perspective of what we all look at today.
I like that.
Great. I like that too.
Yes. Come on, Marshall. Preaching up in
Okay.
here, boy.
Shando, tell it like it is.
I will shout.
Hey.
Don't do it.
Okay, next up, Alana, would you like to,
Yeah, just piggybacking on what everybody said, I think as artists, we just have this specific gift to bring vulnerability and to break down kind of barriers that we live with on an everyday basis and don't really know as humans. I think when you study as an artist, you become so used to breaking down those walls and being in touch with your emotions that sometimes it comes as a shock to the outside eye. So I think it's the coolest thing about being an artist is bringing healing and understanding. Because I don't know, sometimes whenever you see a show, even if it's just happy, that I've seen it shock audience members because it's oh, what is this feeling? What is this joy? What is this? I think it's because sometimes we're scared to sit in our emotions and sit in being human for a while. So when you perform and when you're an actress, for myself, and I do shows, it is interesting to see an audience forced to just sit and deal with experiencing somebody else's life for an hour and sit and be forced to be empathetic and sit and be forced to be understanding. So I think we bring that healing and understanding as artists, that understanding that okay, now is the time to learn what it's actually like to be human, what it's actually like to walk in somebody else's shoes, and also learn what it's like to deal with your own shoes. Sometimes you never see anyone in your actual life deal with things that you go through until you see it in the show or until you see it in live theater, until you see it in somebody's book or somebody's dancing even. So it brings healing. It brings it fades away your feeling of isolation sometimes in the world, and it also brings understanding and perspective. So I think that's my favorite part of being an artist is sharing and giving.
Thank you for that. Charlemagne?
Yes. Well, as an artist, one of the favorite things I love about creating art, especially as a musician, mainly on the bass, I get with a lot of great musicians, but I'm always grateful for the people who show up in droves to support and listen. But when I'm there, I don't think about them at all. I'm only focused on my art and creating. And if I enjoy it, then I know they will. So I never create art with the audience in mind. I always create it if this is something I can enjoy and love, and I can feel the emotion in it. Like I know it'll show up in my body, it'll show up in my spirit, my soul, and then it's only like a natural thing for that to ooze out into the crowd. So I'm a little bit more selfish, but it's for a good cause. Because if I'm feeling it, and I know they'll feel it. And the great thing is always getting a chance to work with other people who pull that out of you, and it always creates like a really authentic experience instead of just sort of mailing it in or looking at this particular show or particular gig or this particular event as just one more. It's like in that moment, I get to really enjoy what I'm doing.
Touche.
Kalia?
Okay, so I think my joy of the art of what I do comes from the trial and error of it all. Because oftentimes, for me, I grew up playing the piano and learning about music. I was like 6 or 7 years old. And I was always, sorry, I was always drawn to just music in its entirety. And I started with a blind musician, literally my neighbor across the street. And our experience was very different. It opened me up to seeing that music is like a universal tool. And even though this person is blind, he is translating the power of music to me, and I'm able to send it back. So at a young age, when I noticed that, oh, music can do that, I was like, I gotta stick with it. And through my trial and error, I've learned more about myself in terms of certain gigs when it comes to performing at certain places. I just noticed that connecting with people helped me to understand how to, talk better, or when I play a chord, or the feeling of, being in church or at home, I've learned to adapt to certain people and surroundings. And I thought that was just so beautiful, because on my own, growing up, like, I didn't really want to talk. Like, we might see each other at school, my mom or daddy, like, I just was an introvert. Like, I didn't want to do it. But when it came to like playing piano or bass or instruments, it helped me to say everything. And I thought it was just something that can be so empowering and moving for others, especially being a Black woman. Like, I've had people be like, you play? I'm like, yeah, why? They're like, are you sure? I mean, and then it's like, then they're like, oh, snap, shoot. And then sometimes I'm trying to get people to get out of the mood of saying you're good for a girl, or I wasn't expecting that. Like, some things we gotta shift. Like, I know some musicians, vocalists that are women that will eat you up alive. Okay. But I like connecting, and through those experiences, I've met more artists. I've had different, exposures and opportunities. And I just love the whole notion of being a creator. You know what I'm saying? So I just love it. I would share it with anybody, any age group. It's a healing feeling.
Thank you for that. And Delasia.
For me, I always tell people, and I know I said it when we spoke earlier this week, that performing on stage and doing the creative things that we love, I take it as our way of giving back to the world. It's what we contribute. And like you said, it changes people's perspectives. It opens their eyes to different experiences that they might not have even considered before. So my favorite part is the actual performance. I mean, yes, I love the practice and the trial and error, but the experience that comes with, I was able to change this person's perspective. I was able to open their eyes to something that they didn't realize before. Because for the most part, I love musical theater and I love the acting and the dancing, but singing for me is really what has my heart. So the best part for me is definitely the performance itself and how people are able to connect. And when you look out in the audience, if it's small, because usually, all of us, I would hope, we're used to performing in front of medium large ones, because I believe in that. And I believe that all y'all are amazing. So a lot of times, you don't get the chance to see people's faces and see their reactions, but when you perform for smaller audiences and you can see how people are brought to tears by your performance, or their eyes light up and you see something change in them so immediately, it's amazing to experience. And so that's my favorite part. I also wanted to add for the next few questions, just so that we feel a bit more conversational, that we don't have to go in order. We can just hop back and forth. And yeah, so back to Delandria.
All right, so our next question, I'll say, as artists, we literally put on a face or a mask for other people's entertainment. Where do we find peace or comfort in the realities we face?
Can you repeat that one more time? That was loaded.
As artists, we literally put on a face or a mask for other people's entertainment. Where do we find peace or comfort in the realities that we face?
I'll touch on. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll touch on that because I was actually having this conversation with someone the other day about as actors, how we literally have to tap into our own personal experiences and perform that in front of people. And to the outside eye, that can sound like trauma, basically, because I mean, to an extent, it can be. Acting is a very physically and mentally taxing job because you literally have to take the stories of people you don't know, find stories similar in your own life, whether they be good or bad, and bring them forth in a way that has nothing to do with you, but everything to do with how it's perceived by the audience and in a performance aspect. So when you think about that, that can be a pretty mentally challenging job. So I think a lot of actors' questions are, how do I navigate that with being safe with my own heart and my own soul and my own experiences, and also giving the most authentic performance I can. And I think every day I still, go back and forth with that. How do you be authentic without recalling trauma or recalling traumatic experiences, especially with what Marshall was saying, as most theater on stage for Black people is trauma. So how do you tap into that and bring that to the stage while still staying safe with yourself, So for me, it's just been giving to theater, but also taking from it what I can, because I think when I've been in acting classes and I've been forced, whether good or bad, to re-encounter things that I've pushed down or walls that I've had to break, it ultimately makes you stronger as a human. And they say never use theater as therapy, but it's not therapeutic. It's almost just being forced to confront things that you wouldn't in everyday life. I was saying as an artist that we're a lot more in touch with our emotions, and sometimes that comes as a shock to the outside eye. And that's because sometimes as people, we push things down and we forget about them. But that's impossible for this art form. You know what I'm saying? You have to push them down, then bring them back up in order to know what it's like to live in, because we're telling stories. So for me, it's just been using that to my advantage. Okay, I can't neglect that this is in me forever. So how do I bring this up? How do I readdress it myself to where I am comfortable with this emotion, whether good or bad? I am comfortable with this experience, whether good or bad, that's happened to me. And I can live with it, therefore, so that I can share it with somebody else and bring them healing. Ultimately, for me, it's looking at the bigger picture. If I am able to encounter this experience and emotion, and I am able to be comforted with it and not be so ill will toward it, that will then enable me to be more authentic and do my job. And therefore somebody else that has gone through the same thing, sitting in the audience, that hasn't had the tools or the acting, classes to bring that back up, can then see, oh, I'm not alone. I've also experienced that. Oh, that's how you feel. Oh, I can do this. I can get through. So for me, it's just staying safe, staying healthy, but having the courage to confront what's in you so that you can help others.
That's good.
Charmaine, were you going to say something?
Oh man, I need more time.
Okay, well, I'll go.
Go ahead.
I think personally for me, I know for sure there's times where I have to put a mask on, whether it's modeling, whether it's playing Sunday morning at church, whether it's a gig, because I feel like I'm doing a disservice by sometimes letting my emotions get in the way. But I will say from personal experience, sometimes when I do allow what's going on to be pushed to the front, I end up connecting with someone more, whether it's at a gig, whether it's, church, anything. I've had times where I've actually personally been like, Pastor, look, I'm not feeling it right now. Like I just finished singing a song and I have to tell him in his ear. And he's like, oh, really? Da, 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 da. And, I found that me speaking on how I feel to people, it actually helped me more to decide whether or not I want to do this right now. Like today I might feel okay, but tomorrow, all of a sudden, things change. And I'm so grateful I'm in the midst of people who can understand my mental state first before the arts in a way, because it allows me to just be a little more transparent and to really just execute or not. So I think sometimes I did learn that if it's a paid gig, sometimes you just got to suck it up, whatever. There's plenty of times I went to the bathroom, I had to cry, whatever, and get right back up there to finish my 30, 40-minute set. But I did have to change my perspective with it, because been doing this for a minute, sometimes having gigs and shows, I was getting disappointed by the expectation I put before I got there instead of the reality. So in terms of like, you done shared your flyer, you done, promoted and everything. You've had a few people who did share and maybe 5 of those people showed up. So you're just like, oh, I'm disappointed by this experience, this and that. And the moment I started to turn that off, like it could be one person or it could be 10, I still came here to do something I said I loved and enjoyed. So how can I still execute in the midst of this? So it's a lot. It's a very complicated thing, I think. So
Loaded
I don't know
question.
how y'all feel about it. Mask off. I don't know.
Pick me.
Not the hand.
You're free to go.
So I've always been taught to, Miss Roberts, Delasia, everybody, Shemai can attest to that. Ms. Roberts always says, when you get on that stage, you are not Anaya, the person, okay? You're Anaya, the performer. So if you were mad and you had an attitude before you got on that stage, you need to leave that off the stage and bring on your ting, your face, basically. And I 100% agree with that statement to an extent, and I'm going to explain further what I mean by that. So, yes, as an artist, right before, I'm kind of pissed off because my musician's late, or my musician's late, or my sister not moving fast enough with my makeup, or like something just not aligning properly. But when I get on that stage, I take a deep breath, I pray, I get on and I do what I have to do. That anger, that frustration and everything in certain ways can be relayed to exactly what I'm doing and how I'm performing. If I was to sing a song about I don't know, every honeybee feels a jealousy when they see you out with me, I could be frustrated about them being late, and I relay that, the reality of my situation, I relay that on stage as a performer in a totally different way. So it's still like I'm confronting reality with the arts, if that makes sense, while I'm performing. So I will definitely say taking your realistic emotions, even though you have to put those things to the side if it affects you physically, but emotionally while you're performing, you can definitely always find a way to relay whatever emotion you are feeling off stage, on stage with performing.
I agree.
Let me just say one thing, please.
Go ahead.
One thing. I also noticed, and I think it's a blessing that God has allowed me to work with people around my age, and then you veterans that are 40, 50 plus up. I think it's very important, despite how we may truly feel, be just as pleasant on stage as off stage. Because I've had so many encounters where it's like, sis or bro, you did that. I want to be like you when I grow up, but you nasty and mean off stage, can't look at nobody, and you think you already done made it. And it's like, my God, let's bring it back.
That's
So
good.
I just feel everybody taking count.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like Anaya said, we even for the Lead with Your Art launch, like we had one day of rehearsal upon recommendation from Shar. So we practiced the day of for about 2 hours before we went live, and me and Anaya, I don't know about anybody else, but everybody was like, you guys need to chill. We're going to be fine. We were just like, no, we need to get this together. We need to know all the stuff. The lights need to be fixed. We were practicing music, and I was trying to fix the ring light so that it had the right angle of the room. And people were like, it'll be fine. I'm like, no, you don't get it. And I was annoyed. I really was, honestly. But once everything got started and we hit the live button, it was like a whole different mood. And so I think that you do need both. You need that frustration, you need that anxiety, you need those feelings that are naturally coming to you, but you also need to kind of, say, okay, this is where it stops. Because if you have too much of one or the other, you're not being your true self. And I think that as artists, we have to put our true selves out there to really connect with people, because people know when you're being fake.
Right. It's a lot of discipline, I feel, has to go into it, because it only goes so far if we just saying, yeah, I'm gonna do that every time. Like, you better practice it at home if you have to, what you do in certain situations, because people most definitely can tell. Even your mama, if your mama in the audience, she can tell. So I've had some moments I'm like, I thought my face was like this.
I'm dead. Mama Strong in the comments probably going off like, yup, get a key, get up. Yeah.
Well, to add on to that, let's see. Yeah, like I would agree with some of the things you guys said, as having both, being able to bring your realities, your frustrations, emotions. If you've had a long day, there might be a time in the performance that might needs to come out. As a musician, I'm still trying to figure out how to do certain things, so I'm always on temper my emotions and make sure that the performance goes well. But I mean, there are times when if someone's late, or if there are things that are out of my control, especially out in the world, then I try not to bring that into the performance. Like, that's one thing that can derail a performance. If you're too angry, if you're angry at the person you're performing with, or the ones on your team, that can really mess things up, and just create a bad vibe, create a bad performance. But having the ability to control it and harness it so it works for your good, that's probably like a skill that I would benefit from being able to figure out and work on and get better at. But I do feel comfortable. I do feel more peace and more comfort as the performance goes along. It's sort of like shedding all of that bad stuff that's happened throughout the day. And by the end of the performance, it's like, man, feel better now.
And like you said, control, that reset, that breathe, that I can't control this, that pray, y'all, let's pray, that, okay, y'all were late, but let's get this, come on, let's get this money. That reset is so important, because like you said, it could definitely affect the course of the whole gig, the whole performance. So, agree.
And it's also good to check them people afterwards in a private setting, because I've seen some people on stage, my God, letting the people have it in front of the people that should not be seeing them have it. And it's not professional. It's not cute. Don't do it.
That's Miami
But when you
style,
get in
child.
closed doors, talk to your people. Like, come on, bro. This the second gig we done had, and you late, and you stay down the street, and I'm a girl, and I had to do my face. What's going on? And then pray over them and end it with a shondo, and it should be better. It should be better.
I'm over her.
Yo, I think I've enjoyed just like listening to the different perspectives that have come from the question, because it came to me so many different ways from so many different angles. I think what I've been taught most is consistency. Consistency is that's how you win. The artists that we watch, they're always consistent. People love Beyonce, she's consistent. People love, in the theater world, they love Audra McDonald, she's consistent. The 6 Tonys, she's consistent. They know what they're doing, they consistently do good work. And it's one of those things where, honestly, if you're a crappy person in a rehearsal room, people don't want to work with you, period.
Mm-hmm.
Period. They just don't. So you will not work. Like, that's how that goes. So, you do meet those people that are like, oh yes, I've done this show and that show and that show. And you're like, okay, sis, but like,
You're not doing another one.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And you meet those people and you're like, okay, that's cool, but like, what are you bringing right now? And when I think of where do we find peace or comfort in the realities we face, I think it is, from an actor standpoint, it's easy for us to go, okay, I'm a character now, but I'm not a character when I walk on that stage.
Yeah.
I am Marshall existing in a different perspective.
Yep.
So whichever choices that come from that, that's me. Maybe it's me taking the story from my grandfather and going, okay, I know that person. If I read a script and I go, okay, that's my grandfather, that's my aunt, that's my best friend from down the street. I know who these people are. So then that informs all my decisions. But also, if I go into a show and I play a role was written for a white person, baby, if I'm playing it, sorry about it. He ain't white no more.
Black person.
Right.
I don't know if y'all thought I was gonna like pull a Michael Jackson, but that's not my gig.
Right.
He black and round now, and that's what you're getting from me. So I think it is the definition of radical is a person who advocates for political or social reform. It's a radical expression to really be yourself on stage, especially as Black people. It's still the fact that now it's radical to be Black on stage.
Come on.
Like we ain't been here. It's like we didn't build the stage.
Like they didn't know Black
Right.
people before Hamilton.
Like the music y'all wasn't performing wasn't ours.
Right.
And y'all just took the seasoning up off of it.
Period.
Because what happened was y'all boiled out the seasoning that is so, the kosher salt. That's if we gonna be real. All right, like I mean, for real.
Right.
There's no country without the spirituals. Listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's no rock and roll without Chuck Berry. So don't do it.
Come on, preacher.
So you have to, I think for us on stage, it is about authenticity, period. We love to watch artists that are authentic. You can watch Beyonce sing, lip sync, go through all the changes in 3 hours. You would not know what she was doing, but I bet you every moment of it was authentic. Beyonce can sit there and we wouldn't know. We would not know. But she's authentic in what she does. And I feel like that's what we connect to. I can't connect to you on stage if you're giving me a mask.
Yeah.
But if you're giving me you
else
in a different perspective, there's still that heart center that I can connect to. There has to be something that we can connect to for art to really change lives. So I think we find peace in that being our service. It's a service industry. Same thing with church. We are serving people.
Yeah.
If what we're doing is just for us, then we could do that at the crib. But to go out there on stage and perform for 200 people, 20 people, 2,000 people, you have to understand that there's something bigger than you that you are servicing in that moment. And that, the world sucks. Sometimes you look at the world and you look outside and you go, there's a world that hates me. There is a world of people that hate me. There are patrons in this audience that will clutch their purses as soon as we leave the stage door, because as soon as I put this hoodie on, put my headphones in, I'm just another black man to them. It doesn't matter how high I sung, how many turns I did, if I kicked my face, if I did a split, it does not matter, because at the end of the day, you only see my hoodie and my headphones.
Yep.
So
You just opened a whole nother topic, sir.
Yeah, you really did.
Because people really don't get that. Because people go, oh no, we love you. No, you love my work.
You love the mask. Yeah,
There is a difference between loving my work and loving me.
Right. Right.
Because you can love my work all day, but you're gonna still be scared when you see this big black man walking down the street. Right. So where are you loving me? You know?
That's talking about, that's bringing back the topic of this mask that we wear, you know? And I think that's so specific to Black performers too, because other performers may have a mask, but they are just by default allowed to be more authentic on stage because everything's written for them. Like you're saying, when you go on and you take on a white role, then they're expecting you to be white instead of bringing yourself to the role. When it's actors, the rule is it's you in imaginary circumstances, not a white person in imaginary circumstances or a Black person in imaginary circumstances. But I think that's the extra weight of Black artists, is that we have to wear the mask of being an actor and then the mask of being a white conforming actor. So that, how I found comfort in the realities we face is that the system wants me to wear two masks in this industry and I'm going to refuse. That's my comfort, especially in what's going on right now. We have the power to change the mask that we wear. We have the power to change the reality we're allowed to be on stage. We have the power to change what passes through the arts as authentic and what doesn't. Because I think we can all agree, especially in the theater or on the stage, there is an authenticity standard. That's not us, how we naturally are. We have to conform to be a little bit more like what their authentic looks like for us. So I think finding comfort is just finding a way to keep pushing, the systems that were built that we have conformed to as artists and changing them to what is more naturally how we tell stories naturally, not how they tell stories naturally.
Exactly.
The comfort is it's an activism, you know?
Definitely means that
speaking.
I feel like with what Alana's saying, it was like, I can say like walking into Young Arts, I saw Alana and I saw Anaye and I was like, oh, okay, cool. You know, like legit, people don't understand. Once you walk into a room and you see some Black people, you go, whew.
And then tell them why we do that though.
And I can say I auditioned for over 25 musical theater and acting programs in this country over the past year. I didn't audition for one Black person. There's something to be said that most of us walk, before we even get out of our cars to walk into your rehearsal rooms, we're already acting.
Yes.
We're acting before we enter the room. So now we're doing 2 levels of acting so that we don't get fired because you're gonna say some out-of-pocket stuff that's really racist, but you have the privilege not to see it as that. You have the privilege not to see color.
Exactly.
So I feel like, and honestly, the way we do that is you get Black people behind the table, you invest in them on your board, but that's another topic.
So different round table.
Well, let me say for sure, for my college experience, when I first started at Miami-Dade, I was in a room full of others and it was just me. So, you know, it was hard for me to fathom it all because I would go home to my mom like, today wasn't a good day, or this happened, or this happened. And I felt like not only did my mom understand, she was trying to help me to see deeper into it, but the more that I adjusted to, you know, the way the systematic flow was going, I started to lose myself. I mean, the way I held conversations, the way I knew that that song was not being played right, or if someone made a comment that such Billy Joe made this Aretha Franklin song, and I know damn well Billy Joe did not. It's just moments where not only do I have to unlearn what they taught me, they need to unlearn what they're teaching, because after a while, it's too much. It's like, why the hell am I here in the first place? It's just a lot. I don't know. I feel like it has to come to a point where they wake up or we make something new or a new avenue lane just for us.
Yep.
And it not to be considered. Like, I've actually had someone in the school system tell me, well, if you don't know how to play classical music, you're not a real musician, and your life is basically gonna. And I was just like, dang, I ain't never heard that before. And why are you so comfortable telling me? Like, you don't even know me yet, right?
Yeah.
But then when it turned to, okay, I can't do what you say I'm supposed to do, I'm gonna do me, then the whole system started to work in my favor. It was like, well, 35 Keys writes some amazing, great songs. Can we have her for the Black History Show, the council meeting, this and that? And then it was like, well, Keys, now we need a little arrangement. Can you put a little, and when they do this needs blackness in it. Can you put a little,
Can you season it? Can you give it some flavor?
That's an appropriate question. Yeah.
Can you?
And to be honest, I'll add to that. I think that was one of the things that really pushed me to start this whole initiative, is that when I say there is competition amongst artists, I don't just mean, all artists. We all know that's how it goes. But it is really important for the Black community and artists of color to support one another, because we are all being marginalized. And if we see each other, if we're constantly in competition, if we are constantly pushing each other out to the edge to be forgotten, to be missed out on, then what are we doing? Who's really succeeding? Not us.
And speaking on, like you said, competition, and right now in society, it seems like, everybody's just living a life of competition. How do you guys think that all of us really, we can use art to push the matters of society, including mental health and the wellness of creatives?
And the Black Lives Matter movement, we'll add that in there.
I think there's power in unity, y'all. I think that's just a message everyone as a Black person and artist has to come to terms with. There is power in unity. And I think in our history and in our art, we've been pit against each other. Like you're talking about, there's a lot of competition. There's like 6 Black roles, y'all. Like,
listen,
there's
the same 4 Black people are cast on Broadway every season.
It's like, yeah, we're pit against each other in society, but it's also in our everyday lives and our art forms. Like, there's not enough of our voices for like there to be enough for everybody. So it's this constant competition. But at the end of the day, when we unite and we go and, like you said, create our own avenues, and we start to change the culture of what we're seeing, not diversity for the sake of Black people on stage, but diversity for the sake of stories, diversity for the sake of what we are hearing, like diversity for the sake of what we're seeing, we'll start to see a lot more of that when we come together, when we're like, okay, we didn't get the 6 roles this season. Let's sit down and create our own 6 roles in a new show.
We're beyond diversity. We want inclusion. We want equity.
I tell people all the time, diversity is nothing without inclusion. Diversity is the thought, and inclusion is the action. If you don't have
come on.
Don't make me pull out the keys.
It does not work.
Hey.
And that's for anybody in the workplace, in theater, in music, in dance, and everything. If you do not have inclusion, diversity is irrelevant. I can see 5 of me, and if we are not being properly acknowledged and properly addressed, and the things that we struggle with are not being addressed, if we're not getting the proper assistance we need, the proper support we need, it is pointless. Why am I here? I can go somewhere else and experience the same thing for if that's what, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Right.
And
why am I coming to your ballet and they in tan point shoes?
Right.
Why?
Don't
have to dye my own
mine
shoes.
is still pink, so
I'm dead. I think
that especially in the music side of it all, we have to get to a point where we're saying, like literally stating, hey, don't pin this artist against this artist, or don't, make it so that we're stuck thinking we're literally in competition, because something I can create to you, it might be the best thing, and someone else was like, I'm not feeling that in that moment, but that doesn't mean you're not a good creator or a good person. I feel like a lot of times we're stuck in this, either this person got it or this person does, and then it takes away from the creation. So what ends up being in rotation is people are mentally feeling like, okay, how can I make this song sound like Beyonce, or how can I make this sound like this person? And then we get lost in that and we don't know who the heck you really are.
I think that in the arts, for the sake of mental health, for the sake of supporting each other within the arts, mental health, and the Black community, I think the key is unity, but also transparency and genuineness and actual support. You can't say you support me as an artist, you support the movement I'm doing, you supporting the content I'm doing without supporting, without, reaching out, hey, I support you, following that, reposting, sharing.
Investing in ourselves.
Exactly.
I think I just made a post about that too.
The bare minimum. The bare minimum.
Yeah.
House, you're on your phone all day. You don't have to leave your house to support me. You don't
Right.
support me. Following me is not going to bring down your public image. It is not going to take a dollar out of your pocket, and it is not going to take a brain cell from up here. Press a button, share.
Yeah.
And I feel like, just like I stated before, it goes for the youth, but it also needs to apply for the adults. If you believe the children, the youth, we are next, why aren't you supporting? This flyer, no offense, I'm so thankful for the people that did share, but it's so many people, I'm like, yo, Black kids are coming together to talk about the arts, same thing you
that's
do,
a good point.
and mental health, and it bothered you to share it.
In a time like this,
In
a time like now.
I feel like if this flyer said something else, it would get all the attention in the world.
If it talked about strippers and twerking, and
it's the same thing that's going on with the movement right now. Honestly, we're mad at all the white people for being passive. Now we need to learn how to not be passive with each other. Like, how can we expect to make our own avenues, our own ways, if we're not supporting one another, if we're not uplifting one another? Like, we don't share each other's work, we don't like hype each other up. Where is it going? We're not getting anywhere. It's back down to the same 6 roles again. And like, the only way out of that is support, is unity.
Now,
and why people get so lazy? I had someone, I ain't gonna call him out, my God, did not even read the flyer. Asked me every question that was on the flyer, my God. And I said, this has to stop. We must read.
She said, this has to stop in the mighty matchless name.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I mean, I want to because I was just thinking, but I guess for me, when it comes to mental health and wellness, I always find that the time leading up to that performance or that show, when you're with people who understand what you're dealing with on a daily basis, it's like it's cathartic, like the rehearsal, the laughter, the sharing. It's like a release where you can be you. You can laugh as loud as you want. You can cut up. You can say a joke and everyone will get it. And you can say things when the people around you understand you, and you don't have, it's not an act. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm loud. You don't have to tone down. And I did one thing last year, and I got the chance to put this group together with Anaye, and I want to do it specifically because I had a vision in mind, and I want to bring and it's something I don't see, and something I kind of yearn for, and something I kind of look forward to, especially in the jazz community. I don't see enough brothers, like Black people, just like coming together, just turning out, like playing from us, playing from church, playing from blues, playing from our experiences, taking music where we know we can take it, and everybody will come along the ride. And I got a chance to put together a band, and it was all members of like the African diaspora. So I introduced that word because I took a class and it taught me about a whole lot of stuff we're talking about. But I don't want to throw like everything in it. But there was a guy in that he was Mexican and Haitian. I'm Haitian and Bahamian. The drummer, he was Bahamian and African American. So just to put all those things together, all those mixtures together, but one thing we had in common is that we saw ourselves as Black, and we were Black. When people look at us, they're like, they have all these ideas. So when I put that together, like I just stood back and it was like, and I didn't really put it together. I just called these guys and they answered, and I was like, yeah, man, we're cool. And then just to put that together and to have those guys really be themselves, like if I can do that over and over, or if there's more opportunities to do that over and over, it'll kind of not only become a thing, but it will allow people like me who kind of was, I would say, introverted to be more aggressive when it's my authentic self. Because how I act here is not how I act over there.
It's not.
It's not. And if I'm acting here and it feels so good, then I have to be comfortable. I have to find a route, a path to continue to be, so that when these same artists who don't look like me, so when these same people who don't look like me see me, be me, they're not like, whoa, where have you been?
Yeah, that's good.
And I think it plays a role in my mental health and my awareness, self-awareness, so that it kind of like oozes out.
I like that.
I think you hit on the biggest thing, which is community.
Yes.
Listen, I've said it once and I will say it to the day I die. The best shows on Broadway, they the one with the Black people in them. Oh, listen, all I'm saying is when I saw Ain't Too Proud and I saw a group of brothers sitting in that
That's
when split and back up. When there is a comfort to when you're with your community, when you're with people that look like you, when you're with brothers that leave the stage door and they have the same experience as you, you have this permission to fail that's not granted when you're the token. When you're the token, you feel like you're walking into the room with your entire culture on your back. You can't let your grandmama down. You can't let Dr. King down. You can't let Oprah down. They ain't gonna see
Malcolm X.
Harriet, I'm with you. You like Harriet Tubman didn't fight for me not to be better than half the people on this stage.
Come on.
When even when you go see a show like Six, that's all women. When you go see a show like Tina Turner and everybody's full out on that stage being Black, being themselves.
Exactly Black.
When you are given the permission to be yourself, to not have to act right so this white director will hire you in the future, to not have to act right so this producer doesn't think you're hard to work with, but when you're given permission to fail and to be yourself, the results show it. The art is better, it's fuller, it's more authentic.
Yeah.
The thing is, a lot of these spaces are just missing community. When you're in the room and you got to go in and say, hi, it's nice to meet you all. When you put on your best non-threatening, when you put on your most authentic mask, it's
like you have to hold back in a lot of instances, and you have to. And it sucks sometimes. I know I've walked into rehearsals where like, okay, today my hair is in braids and tomorrow I have a bob, and they're like, so you cut your hair? And then the next day I took my hair, or like a week later I took my hair and it's like, girl, I know you know how humans work. My hair is out. Sorry.
But I think, you're touching on such a good thing, Charlamagne. I loved like just the joy that like emitted from you when you were, and I think we just forget that we have to double mask up at all times. So we're always feeling like what we feel, what we're doing as artists has to be for somebody else, or else we won't make it in. You know what I'm saying? We won't make it in unless they feel something. So I gotta tap in whatever he wants that they can feel, no matter what I feel. But see, like what you're saying
is we forget that we can also have our art for us. Like that also ties in with Marshall saying is
we don't have to shuck and jive for us.
Right. We can never have our art for us if we're the only person in the room. You know what I'm saying? If we're lacking the other people who feel the same way as us, if we're lacking those other people who look the same as us, so we can bounce off, so we can share experience. You're never going to feel comfortable to share anything, to feel your own art, to take off the mask, to bring yourself healing if you're the only one there. Like if you're the only one that understands you. And I think that's where that joy comes from, is community. That joy and that self-healing that the art I'll give out will bounce back to me comes from being authentic, which only comes from being with people like you, which only comes from not having to be double masked up because the person behind the table doesn't look like you, which comes from us, unity, making our own avenues. You know what I'm saying? It all ties in.
Okay, I got to say something. The only thing that must be stated here, so people don't be confused, is Black people have to be authentic, yes, but I don't want people to think that we don't have the ability to be professional or have our own grace or swag to things, that we're asking for space for it just to be us. So, like the moment we walk out the house, I hope everybody still gets a chance to be authentic and be themselves. But when we get into our spaces, whether it's white people, they're Black people, we still know how to, have that grace and stuff about us. Because there's so many times where people are like, well, you're different from those other people, or, well, you don't talk like them, or you don't look like them, or, you're more dressed up. And I'm like, well, hold on, give me a second. Like, I still have to make it clear, like, we have the ability to, and I think another thing that's important, we have to have more open space where our people, just us at this moment, feel more free to have those jam sessions, have those, moments to come together. Because there's so many times I see people are so nasty towards each other at a day. The thing says jam session, vibe session. Why do people have to learn parts while we up there playing? If I felt like playing a C major chord, it sounded good to me. It felt good. But you in the setting of teaching and having control, no, we need more space of freedom, right? We need more space to just learn. I feel like more teaching moments need to come about, because people have this thing where it's like, if I give you a little bit of what I know, you stealing from me, I'm gonna be broke, poor, and hungry. And that notion has to be deleted. You just borrowed that look, them chords, that song, that scale you just did riff from my ancestors, your ancestors, somebody on the radio 80 years ago. People got to stop that. Just stop it. Because I'm tired of it.
Yeah. To touch on that professionalism that
and I had something to say.
Oh, go ahead, I am sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead, girl.
I'm dead. Okay, so what I wanted to say, it's funny that you brought that point up. Miss Kimberly Houston Bryant said, I think that's your mom, Marshall.
It is.
She says, you represent your whole family when you walk out that door. My mom goes, for real, hand clap emojis. And I think, yes, the whole family.
Yeah.
And most importantly, you represent whatever you believe in. So, that's like one of my mottos. You do everything in the spirit of excellence.
Yes.
In the spirit of excellence, being your true, authentic self. Being able to, okay, look, I have to handle business right now, but when I get on that stage, I'm having fun and I'm embracing all my Blackness, from my long weave, my melanin skin, how we do that run, how we hit that riff, the songs we're choosing to do, what dance moves I pick to go along with this grooving song, you know what I mean? So I think that's so important to, just all goes back to like mental health. Like, it's so important to truly authentically represent who you are, what you believe in, and everything that you do, so that when realities hit, when depression, anxiety, when nervous, anxiousness, when all those things come, it's like, okay, look, this is who I am, this is how I was raised. It's a choice.
Yeah.
I'm going to choose
Very much
to think this way. I'm going to choose to be joyful when I get on that stage. I'm going to choose to smile. Like, I'm going to choose to feel this emotion. And when you are feeling those things of downness and depression and all that stuff, it's important to be transparent.
Yeah.
And I think that all of this is just like a pile of stuff that needs to happen. It ties down to community. It ties down to being authentic. It ties down to professionalism. It's like a building block of a whole bunch of principles that need to be enforced in the arts community and in the Black community to really drive like awareness. And yeah, I'm gonna stop talking now. But y'all get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And speaking of,
I can.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
go ahead, March. No, go ahead.
I can say I have never in my lifetime gone to a good Broadway show and seen a singular Black actor mark because we don't have that privilege.
Mhm.
I have never been to a show and seen somebody not give everything they had in the tank, whether they were depressed, whether there was just a death in the family, whether it was the best day of their life, whether they got married the night before, whether they were hungover. I have never not seen them give everything they had because at the same time, it doesn't matter. After you step out of that stage door, that could be the last time you step out of that stage door. Period.
Spirit of excellence.
Nobody can see the time, steps, and hours of rehearsal you did when there's a gun pointed at you. So there is a standard to perform in excellence because it could be the last time you perform. And I feel like people don't acknowledge that. People don't acknowledge that when, honestly, when you go see a show, that one token performer is giving you everything. You gonna know that person's name. I guarantee you will. And, you know, we don't talk about also the pressure that comes with that. You know, when you have these friends that are the first Black person to play this role, the first Black person to play that role, you feel that pressure even if you're understudy because, you know, once you go out on stage, once that overture starts, there's some little brown girl in the audience that needs to see you.
Yeah.
I know for James, when he opened his genie, I didn't think I could do it. I saw the Tony's performance and I said, yo, you funny, I'm funny. You round, I'm round. You Black, I'm Black. I can do it. So like, it's great to have those moments, but also people have to understand there is a lot that comes with knowing every time you step out on the stage, every time you put your foot in that passe to turn, that you're holding generations of people with you. You're holding those Black kids in the audience, that one Black guy that didn't get the role, but you got it. So now you have to go show out for everybody that didn't get the role. You know, that's a lot to take with yourself. So you also have to go, okay, I understand this divine blessing opportunity that's been put over my life to go and serve, but you cannot fully serve if you are in the way. If we are vessels for this message, if we're like a camera, you have to take the lens cap off to get a clear image. So at a certain point, you still have to take care of yourself enough to take that lens cap off so that the audience can get whatever they need to get from your performance.
Yep.
Period.
Mentally and physically.
Yes, that's what
Speaking
I'm
of
just about
that,
to say.
how do you guys use your talents, whether you're an artist, a performer, an actress, a dancer? How do you guys use your talents to personally deal with mental health struggles?
Who going?
Go ahead, Charlemagne.
All right. Well, whenever I'm on stage, because I mean everything always comes like I feel like all these questions to me are the same question. And because I feel like I have a role and different hats and different talents and different forms of expression, but that same role is, you know, it always starts with me and my disposition. So if I'm good, then now I can worry about everybody else, you know, but I have to be calm. I have to be prepared. And so, like when it comes to my personal mental health struggles, I remember, I think it was it could have been 2 weeks ago. And like all on my timeline, my Instagram timeline, man, like the death of the murder of George Floyd, there was so much going on, so much. And even, I mean, there's so much going on in 2020. And first it was COVID-19. So that's one thing we're having to deal with. And a lot of people have been gone home. I fortunately, you know, I've been working ever since. Like just nothing changed for me. So I've been working ever since. Then George Floyd gets murdered by this cop. And so now I'm working, but then I feel two different Charlemagnes. I feel like there's a Charlemagne that gets to work and gets to pretend and gets to feel like, man, how am I able to work? I'm black. I'm the only black guy in the office. Matter of fact, I'm the only black guy on the floor. I'm probably one of the 5 black people, men, maybe 3, in the whole building. And I probably don't get to see the others, but like not having, so feeling that way, feeling very like down and feeling very like heavy. There's a lot of weight. There's a lot of like somberness, but still having to work. You know, I had to like wind myself up to just to do my task, just to continue to work, and not being able to perform, because when I perform, all that's away, all that's gone out the way, and I can gradually like remove all of these tensions and move all of these emotions that they begin to like evaporate off me. But not having that, everything's been shut down. So not being able to create with other people, it's like that stung and that hurt. And now you have to find another way. So I wasn't working on anything musically related. It was like, man, what can I do to help the cause? And I remember driving home from work, I saw this protest, and there was like a whole bunch of people, and it was like in the Wynwood area, it's like in, near downtown Miami. And I remember sitting in my car waiting for them to pass, and then a few of them was like, honk, so I honked my, and I remember feeling really sad, and I wanted to cry, and because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know why I was angry, I was just like, man, there's just so much emotion here. And it wasn't just anger and fear. It was like a whole bunch of layers of stuff I haven't dealt with. And then I started thinking of all these words came to mind. I started thinking of a poem. And I'm not a poet, but I started writing down all these words. And I just writing it. And the name of the poem would have been Ode to the Black Man. And I haven't finished it or anything like that. But like, for me, that was for me. Yeah. And when I was writing it, once I put it out there, if it was for me and if it does me any good, then I know it'll be good for other people who hear it. And for me, when it comes to arts, like that's what it does. It's kind of like an inward process. Like it heals me from within. And then by the time it's given birth, now it can start to heal other people.
Yeah, I think 2020 has been the biggest challenge to what I do and the biggest redefiner to what I do. Because when I first started becoming an artist, a theater artist, musical theater performer, all the things, it was so that I could be heard. Basically, simply, I was going through a lot. It was middle school. I was going through a lot of blatant racism, believe it or not. And I felt like I had nowhere to turn, nowhere to share my voice. And the biggest thing of all that, I had nowhere to be versatile. I felt like at school, around all my white peers, I was only one thing. I could only be one thing. We talk about that weight of our ancestors on our back. Like that's how I felt at all times. Unless I was on the stage, unless I was given a script where I could relate to somebody else that wasn't what I was forced to be in school. So forever it was that. Like, I want all these little girls in the audience to see that they can be whatever they want to be if they're Black. They can be loud, they can be quiet, they can be outgoing, they can be silent, they can be whatever, because we're human, and at the end of the day, our race doesn't define who we are inside. That's what I want. But then coming into 2020, it's like, when you carry that artist statement with you inside of you, it's like, I always need to work. I always need to work. I always need to say something. I always need to write. I always need to perform, because somebody out there has to hear it. There's some little girl in middle school going through the same thing that I just went through, and I have to share this. I have to bring this to her, or else she's going to continue. You know what? So it was like always work for me. And then we get to 2020, and it's like, Corona, yeah, you can still work during that. But like George Floyd and Ahmaud and Breonna, it was just like hit after hit after hit. And as an artist, how do you go and you sing and you dance and you try to get little Black girls to be able to feel versatile when we all have to feel this thing? When we all, there is a time now in our society where we're forced to all feel this thing and be with this thing, heavy with this thing. We're all forced to be one thing now, because we have to feel it. We don't have a choice. This is the world we live in. We feel it or we don't, and we neglect it, and we carry the risk of dying, being murdered. So it was hard. It was the biggest challenge to what I do. Are you gonna get off your ass, even though you're feeling depressed and the lowest you've ever felt, even though you're feeling scared and traumatized, and go create to give somebody hope? Or how do you deal with that? How do you sit with that? How do you work through that? So I think the biggest thing that's changed for me in this time, and the biggest thing that's helped me deal with my mental health during all these struggles, is realizing, and believe it or not, Marshall really has brought this word into my life, joy. Like being sometimes the biggest form of activism, the biggest protest, is being joyful as a Black person in this world, as showing them that we are deserving of joy, and using my art for my healing. Sometimes I have to use my art for activism purposes. I have to write to protest what's going on. I have to write to save and to work and to help. But sometimes I have to do it for me. I have to do it so I can be healthy, because we have everything going against us right now. Sometimes we have to use our art to heal others, but to heal ourselves. So
I think so me and Alana are in a group chat, and it's a bunch of Black kids going into musical theater, going into some of the top programs in the country next year. And Corona, okay, cute, whatever, cool, do your thing. I don't really need to graduate. I got what I wanted artistically out of everything beforehand. And Naye knows, we got to Young Arts and they were like, one person has died from Corona. We caught it right before the world went to hell. We caught it right before. But so for me, the idea of joy is bigger than an emotion. Happiness, it comes and goes. Sadness, it comes and goes. Being mad, it comes and goes. I feel like joy is the state of being, yeah? So it was hard for me when I didn't have the excuse of not being able to feel. When you have people die, because it's that time of year, honestly. Realistically, every February to May, that's when we get the news, because these people die throughout the year, but we get the news February to May. But usually that's when you're busiest. So it's easy to say, okay, I can't feel this, I have a show. I can't feel this, I'm on Broadway. There's nothing happening.
There's none of that.
So you have to feel it. You have to sit there and go, Tamir Rice would have graduated with us this year. You have to sit there and go, George Floyd had kids, Rayshard Brooks had kids, Breonna Taylor was sleeping, Tatiana Jefferson was playing video games. You have to sit there and you go, all these things are happening and we did nothing. So then you're sitting there and you're trying to find this state of joy and creation and leading in service and leading in love, but you're like, how can I love when I don't feel loved? How can I create something that's joy filled when I'm not, when I'm missing that? How can I create when I'm in the midst of this deep trauma? Because it's not like this is a new thing to us.
Nope.
Black people carry generational trauma. We've been traumatized so much consistently. It's in our DNA.
It's in our DNA.
So then how do you create something to change somebody's life when you're sitting there praying that somebody will change your life?
Yeah.
So I think for me, finding joy, finding a sense of peace, finding a place where I can create again, that was in having community. It was in, Alana checking in with the group. It was in talking to my mentors, talking to these people that are the first to do this, these Tony winners, these poets, these musicians. It was in talking to them. It was in giving myself space to breathe and to not be okay. To not have to feel like you're always running away from this constant trauma, always running away from this idea, but to go, okay, it is okay to feel this because it's my reality. I can't create something else because the world is shut down. There is no other reality for me to run to right now. And I think it was important for me to acknowledge that in myself and in other people so that I could go, okay, cool. This is how we can move forward. Or just to say, hey, I'm not ready to move forward yet.
Right.
To say, yo, cool. I'm gonna step away for a little bit because I have to give myself space to process these things, to give yourself space to not have to educate every white person you have ever met, ever.
At all times.
To give yourself space to exist. And I mean, for me, I found joy in going to a protest because those first couple miles you getting it in and you like, ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, and you getting it in. But once you hit that third one, you might hear somebody play Luther and everybody go, hey, you have that moment where it's this radical act of self-expression and joy, and having joy when you don't want to. There's something so beautiful about being in a protest and you're dancing. There's something so beautiful about, going to the park and you're hearing songs from your childhood, and you get to sit there and you get to experience Luther. You get to dig into Arrested Development. You get to feel Biggie in your chest. You get to say it with your chest. You don't have to censor it because this white person might be scared. I don't care. I don't care. People are dying. So if the only way for me to have joy right now, for me to live, is to scream and shout, baby, I'm gonna let it out.
Yes.
Best believe it's coming up out of me. And guess what? You can feel however you want. This isn't about you. This is not about you. People are dying.
Yeah.
This is not about you. So once I got to the point where I could go, fine. My joy is going to be my joy. I'm tired of dimming. I'm taking this good old lampshade off. I'm gonna set this lamp to the highest setting, and you gonna get what you gonna get what you gonna get. Because this little light, this big light, this bright light is gonna shine, whether you like it or not. Period. I'm done.
Yes. Wow.
I know that I have contradiction minutes, so we are going to keep the last couple comments short if you can, and then we'll wrap up.
Got it. So I think personally, where are we going? Anaya?
Okay, so I just wanted to say right before I forget, like Marshall said, now we have to like confront the fact that like we don't have any other choice but to feel, especially since we can't perform, and that really has made me reflect on exactly what personally the arts has done for my mental health, and me educating people on just Black history period. And something really just popped up to my mind, an example I usually perform at gigs like the Olympia Theater, and it's a majority white Brazilian other race majority crowd. So when I do go, yeah, I sing jazz, which is deeply rooted in Black people, power to the people. But when I turn on that, living my life like it's golden, living my life like it's golden, or that, oh, you make me happy, and I get to dancing and everything, and those moments are so precious
Important.
to me.
Priceless.
It's so precious to me. The fact that I can engage a crowd and not just full of Black people. I got the Caucasians
Come
up
on.
there doing the two-step. I
Come
got
on.
the Hispanics up there doing winding their waist and having a good time. And I think those moments are so important to me personally for my mental health, because it's like that felt so good to me. And the fact that I can relay that to other people, in addition to pouring my Blackness, my flavor, my seasoning onto them unconsciously, honestly, because that's just
Right.
who I am, is just amazing. So I just wanted to say that. Yeah.
Okay, let me chime in real quickly. It's not a contradiction, but it's my real life. So I'll say personally for me, that I had to get to the point where I really admitted that I don't feel good. And I think it was so hard, especially when I thought I was putting in work, when I was doing things differently, when I was saying things differently, treating people differently. And then it was like, you still don't feel good, right? I kid you not. The last session thing I did was with Anaye. That same day, I cried my behind off. Didn't cry for like a week or so. But that day, I felt so bad. And I was like, sis, what happened? And I was like, I don't know. And I have a lot of moments where it's like, I don't know what the hell happened, but I just don't feel good. And I need some help.
Mm-hmm.
And to say that at this point, knowing that I've been suffering with depression and anxiety, not my depression and anxiety, but depression and anxiety for almost 7 years now. In that moment, I was like, if you don't get some help for real this time, you're going to be in trouble. Because here you are, this person that's known and you want to be famous or, creating stuff. What happens when this happens again and you have an audience, or it's right before a gig type of thing? And me sitting down with myself, especially during this time, like I've been forced to have that mirror talk, like, girl, it's just you and me. Ain't no mama, daddy around right now. Ain't no friends. We can't sneak off nowhere. We can't hop up in the car because this corona might kill you. It's been real moments where I'm like, oh my God, I got to look at my face. I got to look at my skin, the things I'm playing, the things like, it was such a feeling that I never really thought I was going to have in this lifetime. And I'm thankful for 2020, despite the, difficulties and different things we've been having. But I'm saying that all to say that 20-year-old 35 Keys ended up getting as much help as she thought was possible. So I mean, like, mind, everything I'm saying to myself has to be something of an affirmation or positive. Body. I'm somewhat fit, but child, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I have to go to a park with a trainer to just get that motion of like, okay, I'm doing something that'll make me feel good. Whether it's something I'm eating now. If my mom is still on here, she know how I used to eat the things I would buy. I don't do the things I do because I couldn't. I knew that everything was affecting my behavior, and it resulted to me reaching out. Had to get a therapist. If anybody on here, it is okay to not be okay. If you need some help, if you need some guidance, even if it's someone to talk to, reach out. The crazy experience for me, from knowing that I've had deep suicidal thoughts and different things, when it hit 2020 and I'm getting messages from others who are saying, Keys, it's getting a little rough. I know you've been talking about this and dealing with this, but I don't feel too good today either. Like, oh, well, I'm thinking about killing myself. Ooh, okay. Well, I know what that feel like. I've heard it before, but when it's you have to hear, and I'm sure I've projected that type of version of me on other people, and it was just a feeling that it's like, okay, where do we go from here? What do I say? What do I do? How do I, through my music or whatever? And that's what I wanted to go to. In terms of the arts, I got to the point where I was like, I can't talk about sex and different things only because it's not me and how I'm feeling right now. There's so many people who are longing to hear something else or something that they can relate to, or, so it's been a mix of me pouring out my true feelings and intent in my music. If I have a gig and it's a solo gig where it's 35 keys on the flyer, I'm gonna do songs that make me feel good, make me feel sad, and I might just give you a few originals that are telling you how I'm feeling. And out of the whole set, it might be some party and dancing, but someone remembers something I said or an original song that resonated with them so deeply. And I think that's the beautiful thing about being a creator and, being an artist right now, is just being real about it. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking, saying, and getting help. That's one thing that I must put out there. It does not matter the age. I don't care if you're 82. Get some help. Break the stigma. We need it to be stuff unlearned, did different. Like, sometimes I'll be around my family. I'll be like, y'all need some help. But I can't help you because I'm trying to help myself. And I hope you understood.
Yes,
we do.
I'm very grateful for everybody that came out, everybody that's been watching. If y'all read the comments after this,
Yes, thank you. Everybody tuned in.
Yes, people have been, it's been amazing reaction. So we want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you to all of you guys for coming, chiming in. We will definitely keep in contact. Off this discussion, I've got some great ideas in mind, whether we're near or far. I'm super excited, and thank you guys so much.
Love you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
You guys are phenomenal. Everybody go tune into a nice gig. It's I forgot his Instagram at Stephen Valentine Poetry. Yes, please and thank you. In like probably 2 minutes. So go switch from this to there.
All right, guys.
Come on, let's go. Let's get it.
How you do that?
Huh?
How you do that? How you switch?
Go on Instagram.
Go to Instagram.
All right, bye.
Bye, y'all.
Peace.
Much love. Peace and blessings.
Love.